Brendan, we're live, bro. We're live, bro. The most we've ever gotten is 17 people. Who was watching? I don't know if we were watching like the Nair like armpit, and he was talking about like dicks. He said like I saw like 5 cocks in 1 month.
Does anybody got a safety contract? Safety contract. We should start working on Monday.
Oh, tune in.
After the safety quiz, so if you have a contract in by Monday, you're not going to be doing much. So make sure that gets completed and turned in, please. In terms of what I want to do today, I want to start going over the tools. I want to kind of get this going.
So we're live.
So I need about a day and a half to go over tools. If I let you just go, if I just said, here's the project, go build it, I guarantee about 90% of you would just be like standing there and looking at the wall because you have no idea what to do or how to use the tool. Now, with that said, I want to go through this period as a student trying to, so every step that I would go through to get the first project started. If you get through the first project, you should be able to handle pretty much any other project I throw at you, with the exception of a few different, techniques that are being used, in that project. So project, like step-by-step kind of deal, how I would get it done. As I'm doing it, I'm going over the tools, how to use them, a little information about them, and then you should have enough information for on Monday when you come in to take the safety quiz, which will then allow you to start working until you pass it. Okay. So I know this is a little tough because it's, again, not the most exciting thing in the world, but if you just bear with me for another period, that'd be fantastic. Just let me get through what I have to say. Just pay attention. That'd be great. We're going to start off with that over there underneath that jet sign. We'll meet over there as a group, and we'll start walking through the process of how to get the project going.
Just bring it. I can't bring it. I'll just point it this way. Is that chill?
They call me.
That's chill. Someone's gonna see it. Yeah, someone's gonna see it.
Get a chair. So we're going to be moving out throughout the room, right? I want to show you what you need to do and how to get it done. The first project that you're going to be creating is this here, and it's not the most exciting thing in the world. It is a foam holder. Nothing fancy about it. It is a project that allows you to, or forces you to use pretty much the majority of the basic tools in the shop. Gets you getting a little bit dirty, gets you a little started. Things, it's a, nothing too, that great here, but you get a little spot over here, you put your keys, this go next to your bed, you have a wallet, you put a wallet there. If you have a phone, I have my phone on me today, I can take and put my phone here. Okay, so you got a little bit of something here, and I don't wear bracelets or watches, not my thing. But if you do have a bracelet or a watch or a hair tie or whatever you want to put, you can slide it into this gap here and then hold it there as well. So it's supposed to be somewhat practical. Give you something to do in terms of like getting your hands a little dirty. But it's not a complicated project. Granted, the variety of finished products that I get begs to differ. But I want to make this, right? So I'm going to send you a plan. You're going to take a look at the plan, and then you got to start figuring out like your first steps. First step, obviously, is get some wood. Borja. Hey. Yeah. Okay, I'll let her know. Not a problem. Do the best. Bye bye. It came through. So, with that said, first thing you have to realize is I'm asking you to build this out of poplar. Now, poplar is going to be the most common wood used. Most of us can afford it. It's not a bad wood. It's a good wood. It's a hard wood. But poplar is going to have a couple distinctive colors. So most of it's going to have like this deep green, but you'll also find poplar to be actually pretty green color. All right. This is all the same wood. It looks different, but it's pretty much the same wood. Well, it is the same wood, just, different parts of the tree. Remember, it's natural. You're not gonna get all the same exact color. In this scrap bin here, you do need to be careful. I have things like, this would be a piece of maple, walnut. This is African mahogany. This would be cherry. There's different lumber here, right? The whole point is that after you use poplar, you should be sticking with that same type of wood. Now, here's the thing. You do need to be careful because sometimes maple, for example, has got enough of a cream color to make you think it's, poplar and the maple are like the same. You gotta pay attention. The maple's gonna be a lot more dense, be a little bit heavier. The poplar is not gonna be as heavy. Okay, so this would be a perfect example. If you're not really paying attention, you look at it quick and they're under the right light, it looks like it's the same wood, but it's not. So something to think about. Now, the first thing I want to do here is I got to pick lumber, and I got to start in the scrap bin because we do have a shortage of lumber. So I'm just going to look at my two pieces here, just to give me a couple of measurements. This here is 4.5 inches. This here would be 6.5 inches. So I got to look over here and say, do I have any 4.5 or 6.5 inch pieces? 4.5 possibly. I might have some 4.5. This might be about 4. It's about 5 inches. So like I can use this piece of wood to make this piece here. Okay. Now you got to realize your fifth period. By the time I had second period's intro to woods, third period's advanced woods. Who knows what this looks like? From period to period, it changes, right? But check here first, please. If we can reduce the amount of wood we're taking out of the back and using what we have here, that's great. But in the case that, for example, this piece here being 6.5 or 6 inches, I have nothing here to help me, right? So that means I would have to go into the back room, right? The back room is where I store all my lumber. But I want to make sure that before I go back there, I did check everything in place. So let's go to the back room. Oh, we did? We went over all the lumber? Oh, well, how far did we get? How far did we get?
We did this last week.
All right. We did that machine. Okay, cool. Because second period didn't do anything. Second period, I thought I wanted to do this period. Okay. You guys go, I don't want to waste your time then. We already talked about the wood. So then recap. I'm going to grab my piece of wood in the back, right? I'm bringing it up over here. Once I bring it into here, I need to say to myself, if it's a long 10-foot board, something where it's like this, I should be saying I need to get this trimmed up, rough cut. So if my piece is supposed to be, in this case, it's 11 inches, I'm going to rough cut it to 11.5 using the slide knuckle microscope, right? Okay, we talked about the saw last week.
Yeah.
Which way in the grain are you cutting with this saw? The grain should be going the long side. Yes, this is going across the grain. Cut boards to length here. This is cutting boards to length. You can't be cutting with it. If you say you're cutting with it, that means you're taking boards and doing this. Can we do that here? All right. Not allowed. So if I have, for example, a line, that line is right here. I want to say I want to cut this. Coming here is the worst thing you can possibly do. Okay. I have to do that on the table saw. First, I have to join it. Once I get a joined edge, nice and clean like so, I can then bring it to the table saw. I'm trying to use more scrap wood here, so I don't want to waste lumber than you guys can use. This is pretty small though. Okay, so I'm going to join my side, so I'm taking it to the joiner. Just a recap here. Hitting the on button, keeping this flat on the table. I'm going to join my edge. Once I join my edge, I have a nice clean edge to work on. I'm coming to the table saw. Table saw I did not get to with you guys.
No, we didn't.
We did this? No, okay. It is a dangerous tool, obviously. Mostly the most common tool that people lose appendages on. Unfortunately, it's a table with the saw blade just sticking out of the top of it. Okay, Quinn and Brandon, you mind coming over here, please? I'll make sure to show you what's going on here. In this case, I'm using this tool to cut a board to the correct width. Okay, meaning that I have a dimension, I want to cut it to width. One of the things everybody does is they'll take their piece of wood and they'll say, I just have to cut this line off. So they'll come over here and they'll say that they want to do this. But the problem is they usually complain, I can't move the fence over enough, right? Incorrect. You don't come here with a line on a board. You come here with a dimension. If I need my board to be 4.5 inches, on the fence, there is a window. Window. In the middle of that window, there's a red line. I'm taking that red line and bringing it to the size that I need. So if I need a 4.5 inch piece, I am locking this in at 4.5 inches. I need a 7-inch piece, I'm locking this in at 7 inches. I don't care about the line on the board. It means nothing to me. Okay? Slide this over to 4.5 inches. Make sure the red handle is down. Make sure that the guard is on. Okay? If I'm making a knock-through cut, sometimes I do that in advanced woods, meaning that the blade is not cutting all the way through the board. I'm going to make sure this guard is going to be off. So you coming up here, and if you see this off of it, please ask me to put it back on. Okay? You should have it on at all times. It does two things for us. One, it's got a riving knife. As the blade is cutting the piece of wood, it's obviously splitting it. This riving knife is preventing that board from closing up again with this grain. It's also got this up here, this dust shroud. It helps you, if your hand is anywhere, it can't hit the blade, okay? So this here is just extra protection. In terms of the blade rotating, the blade rotates in a clockwise motion, okay? So it's rotating in this direction. If I'm trying to cut a piece of wood here, you need to realize that this path here should be pretty open. For us gentlemen with the goods in an area that's slightly about the height that we're here at this table, unless you want to get knocked in the jimmy here, you're going to make sure that this area is nice and open, all right? With that being said, I'm going to be on the saw a little bit, but I'm not far away from the saw. Be careful that the on button or the paddle is right next to your thigh. So if you're too close to it as you're cutting, a lot of people do this, they'll turn it off mid-cut. The reason why this is here, everybody's like, oh, Borch, it's such a stupid spot for it. If you're in an emergency situation and you need to turn off this saw, your leg is only, I don't know, 1/2 inch away. It's a lot quicker than trying to do this and slapping it off, okay? If your hands let go of this piece of wood and this blade is rotating, it's taking this board and sending it. I've seen it done before. It's sent right across, hit the door a couple times. Okay, it's called kickback. So please don't let go of the board. Turn it off with your thigh. All right. Fence needs to be on at all times. If it's moving, that's a bad thing. Okay. If I'm pushing the wood and it's moving, we got problems. So make sure you double check. Make sure it's locked down in place. The fence has to be there for you to make your cut. You can't just sit here. And what? Oh, I did. Fantastic. If I were to cut a line here, I cannot run the board through freehand. It's very dangerous. It should be up against the fence. As this blade is rotating, the board's going to want to go up and come out. So my left hand in a fist, like I'm punching the top of the table, take my index finger, slide it up against the board. I put my thumb on top of the board. That's helping you keep in place. This is my PPE center. Grab yourself a PPE. In this case, a push stick like this is fine. I have whatever you feel most comfortable using. I have plenty of them. Whatever you think is more comfortable for you, you grab. If this is a small cut, usually you have to go with something like this, just because it keeps your hand off of the guard, or else your hand is pushing up against the guard as you're trying to hold the board. Right? So this is kind of nice because it gives you a little bit more room. In terms of the placement of this, if I were to do it on this side so you can see it, if I were to push it up on the edge, that comes right off the fence, okay? If you were to push more off to the side, it does not come off the fence. So I know everybody's instinct is like, I gotta slap this all the way up to the edge. Don't do it. They're made out of plastic. These have foam. If you notice, that's saw blade cuts right there. That's somebody trying to push it through and it hit the push stick. I don't care. I could buy these, they're about like, I don't know, $20 or whatever they are. At least that way, it's not your hand. So if you nick it, you nick it. Just realize, if you nick this, it's going to try to shake it out of your hand. Make sure you're holding on to it tight. Okay. So keep it up against the edge. Make sure the side is jointed. This is my control box here. It should be a green light. If there's no green light, see how the light's flashing? That means there's an obstruction on the blade. It will not turn on with my finger on the blade. Okay, it'll just start flashing more. If I take it off, it should start turning to a solid green. Once it turns back to solid green, that means I can start cutting, right? All I'm doing is just a gentle paddle pull, grabbing my push stick, make sure I'm on the table, and I'm just feeding this through. Taking the can out of the way, and finishing my cut off my thigh. Okay? This, do not touch until the blade stops. Sometimes I use a push stick, push this out for the rest of the way. This here should be, if I set this properly, exactly 4.5 inches. Okay? The nice thing about this is if you have to do multiple cuts, for example, I need 3 pieces at 4.5 inches, I'm set. Grab my next piece of wood, bring it over, and cut it. No measuring needed. Okay? Please be careful with the small pieces. I know your instinct is quickly just to go grab it. You don't realize how close your finger is to the blade. Even if this is slowing down, it will cut right through your hand. So please wait. Excuse me, it stops, then you can push it out. Sometimes you can use a push stick. If the push stick is on it, sometimes you can grab your push stick and just push it out of the way. If you don't want to get your hand close, that's fine. Right? Any questions, concerns? Okay. Question? Of course. If you don't feel comfortable using this tool, a lot of people don't. See, it's like a minor stuff. Just hey, Borge, do you mind making this cut for me? Okay, you know, we really appreciate it. That's fine. I'm more than happy to make any cut for you. Do not make any cut. You don't feel comfortable making that cut because you will get hurt. Right? In terms of the table saw, pretty simple. Watch the blade height. If you need to adjust the blade, this wheel in the front will change the blade height. You want it only about 1/4 inch above your piece of wood. Less blade, less chance you get it cut. All right? Not that hard to stay safe. Not that hard not to get hurt. Just make sure you're standing in the right spot. Make sure you're using a PPE. Make sure you have a fence that's locked. Make sure you're perfectly fine. All right? I'm cutting to length. Slide cup miter saw. Cutting to width. Rip cutting on the table saw. I am squaring. I'm squaring 90 degrees on the edge using the joiner. So that's your joiner. Slide cup miter saw. Table saw. And the quiz will be asked to identify those 3 tools. Right? The bandsaw will be the last thing that you can use to make a cut. These 2 are meant to cut straight lines. The bandsaws are meant to cut more, curvy lines, I guess you want to call them, or freehand lines. Bandsaws are actually, honestly, out of this room, all my axes happen on a bandsaw. I had a girl last semester cut her hand on the bandsaw. Before that, I had somebody cut. It's always on the bandsaw that somebody gets cut. I have 4 of them. There's one over there in the back. It's a Rikon. It's blue. The Rikon blue and this one here are thick bladed. Okay, so you can notice the blade's really thick. These ones will cut a straighter line. Okay, it helps. The thicker blade helps you keep the blade steady, so you can actually kind of make a nice straight line. Quinn, do you mind grabbing that piece of wood on the bench there? It's got the slot in it. Left side, left side, left side, left side. Yep, right there. Yep. So you see, Quinn, if you mind hold it up there. See how there's that slot in that? You want to cut that out, right? So I'll make a modified slot on this piece. If I were to make a modified slot over here, I want to cut this out, right? You have a straight line here. I can't cut this out in a table saw. Unfortunately, the blades are, it's got a radius to it. So as soon as that blade gets to this point, it might not be cutting, be cutting here and here. So I can't just cut this on a table saw. So I call miter saw, I'm cutting with the grain. You can't do that either. So you have to use a bandsaw for this. Something like this, I can't cut it using this, but I would rather use this one. Okay, they're straight lines. Keep the board flat on the table. Realize that this here is a giant band, or it's called a bandsaw. It's a giant band of a blade that just rotates in a downward motion. So make sure you're not, up in the air. As soon as it touches it throws it right down. Keep it flat on the table. Okay?
But you spin it yourself.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Pretty cool, right? Now, what I'm going to do here is I want to cut this out. Realize that you've made a mark here with a line. You shouldn't be cutting the line off. You should be leaving that line. So I should be cutting it. I was like, I want to get rid of this inside. So I'm going to turn it on. Once I get it going, I'm just going to start cutting all the way down. Now, I'll get wild with the cut. Why? Like that. So there's my cut. Right? I'm going to cut 2 lines straight down. One of them looks booty, don't really care. One of them is pretty straight, that's straight. The key here, there's a line, there's a line. Okay? So if I want to come over here and use this one instead, because someone else takes that one over, that's fine too. Come over here, you can make that same cut again. Down, backwards, I'm going to come in at an angle. What I'm going to start doing is start pulling pieces off. So those 2 pieces were there, cut them out. Then I'm working my blade in there and cutting this off, piece by piece. You got to remember, it's a bandsaw. You cannot make a 90-degree turn randomly in a board while you're cutting. I can't take my board and just do this in the middle of a cut. The bandsaw can't handle it. You'll actually snap the blade in half. It happens, very common. It's one of the most things I have to change the bandsaw blade and snap in half. So make sure when you're cutting, keep your hands away from the blade, because what happens is if it snaps, you have the momentum of the 2 wheels rolling, that blade will separate, and usually this top piece here is going to come slapping into your board. So you should have stabbed a piece of wood. If your hand's too close, it will stab you right in the middle of the hand. So just keep your hands out of the way. So if it does snap, there's room for the board to cut. Ariana, come back. Please do not, this is another common one for you. People like taking little tiny pieces like this and start cutting with it. Don't do that. The zero clearance plate right there will suck the piece of wood. It will fall right in. Isaac cut his finger on that first bandsaw right there. Yeah, that was bloody. He had blood all the way down to the end. No, I didn't lose it.
That's right.
No, he didn't cut. I was there. But most common to get hurt, so just make sure your fingers are away from the blade. Realize that there is a little bit of a blade, movement. If I'm pushing pressure on the blade, it flexes backwards. As soon as the wood exits the piece of, as soon as the blade exits a piece of wood, it's going to come right back forward. So make sure your hands are far away. So that's what happened on Isaac. You want to know. He was cutting, and the blade is flexed backwards. As soon as it came out of the piece of wood, it jumped back to 0, and it slapped him right in the finger. So that there would be an inside cut. If I want to cut a curved cut, so I have a curve here, and I want to cut it, right? I'm not going to use the big bandsaw. You can cut this on an angle. You're better off just using something like this over here, a smaller bandsaw. I know sometimes you're sitting here going, oh my God, this is taking forever. There's a line or whatever it is. Use a small bandsaw. Turn it on, come over here. As long as you leave the line. Again, I'm just extending it. Not really going up here. I made it like nice and flat. Don't care. I have ways of fixing it, right? So you're just, as long as there's a line, you're good to go. Once I cut that, I'm going to come over here now. So, you want it back? I I have 3 main types of sanders. Actually, I have 4, but 3 that we're going to use for now. The 4th one I'll talk about later. I have belt sander, oscillating spindle sander, and I have an edge sander. Okay? These are the 3 most that you're going to use. Really, these 2 are going to be the most common. I have a mini oscillating, mini spindle sander over there, mini spindle sander over there, and I have this is a vertical belt sander. I have a mini vertical belt sander that's over there. Right? For something like this, I'll go to that sander down there, sand it. For an outside curve, I'm going to do it on this sander here. For some reason, people like this sander because they think it's not as aggressive because you don't have the big shroud, the big belt. The problem is when you use this, you're only working on this like tiny edge. So when you're trying to balance this on your piece of wood, it kind of takes it and tries to throw it out of your hands. If I do an outside curve, I'm going to use this belt sander here. Keep it flat on the table, turn it on. Once you turn it on, this crappy little cut, I can just work it back and forth, and I can make it exactly what I need it to. Because I have a line. Once I do that, even though it was all crappy looking, now it's better. Okay? If I had to do an inside curve, I'm going to be using this. So, for example, if I had a curve that was like this, and I cut this out, I can use this sand. Only catch. Do not come over here with a hole in it and put this over the top. This is very dangerous. What happens is you don't realize it, but you start to kind of go with the rotation. It picks up the piece of wood and it pulls it right out of your hands. The problem is there's no exit. So this literally just goes like this in circles. Okay? There's no way to stop it. I had somebody get hit in the stomach, black and blue here. It actually ripped it. I had to replace this. It broke this right off the pipe. It's very dangerous. So don't come here with a hole, put this over the top and say, I just got to sand this. Because as soon as you go a little bit and it grabs it, it's just doing that. How? I had to kill the power. You couldn't get close to it. You couldn't get close to it. She had a piece that was about this big. It was just, okay? Just something to realize, huh? Dog, the dog bowl holders. You want to make one of those dog bowl holders. So it's up and it's raised up. So you put the 2 bowls in. All right. In terms of edge sander, we don't need to talk about that really. We'll go to that back bench there, and I'll show you the hand sanders. Okay. All right, so in terms of hand sanders, one of the things you got to do is sand the boards. You can do that with a hand sander. That's up here. Hand sanding is one of the problems. Those sanders are very aggressive sanders. It's a low grip. That's 80. Now we're going to 50 grip, 60 grip. Low grip sandpaper tend to cut the boards with bigger grooves. So what you do is start with an 80 grip, like this, and then start working up and up. Okay? You go from 80 to 100, to 180, 220. 220 is the final cut. 220 needs to be really smooth. I mean, I'm finished the product. I want to be done. I want to prove it. These boards, they look somewhat decent. If you were to sand it, you make them look a lot better. It's not that hard to use. These are obviously palm sanders. Things on the tool itself, the paper comes off, and grab yourself a new sheet, slide it back in again, fold it over, and then take it back in. So it's kind of good to work with the group. You did have an 80 grit. Finish up at 80 grit, and also take your 80 grit, grab your sander, go to 100 grit, and then kind of get it going. 100 grit tends to wear faster. Higher grits usually wear fast as well, but our 100 grit here are a little cheap. But 220 grit, you probably do one project. 80 grit should last for two projects. More grit, same thing, handle it. But when you start dealing with a lot of usage, you tend to go to paper. Don't store paper up here, piled up in piles, throw it away, garbage, garbage. I don't need it. So that right there is the last final part of this. Sand it rough with the one of the belt sanders, single standard, or one of the standards. And then once you've done that, you sit here and final sand. Any questions, comments, concerns about that? Sanding is very tedious. It takes forever. It's annoying. I get it. It does make the project look a lot nicer. Let's do it. So it is kind of a waste of time to start the board and start the work. Last thing is the drills. I have two types of drills. This should be the most common tool. Everyone should know how to use one of these. There's no surprising tool. Drive it. They want to get how to put a bit in it. Unfortunately, there's only certain things you should do in certain drills. This here is meant to put in screws only. Don't try to put a drill bit in this. Let's see. Don't try to stick this into here and then go in there. It won't fit. So don't try to start slamming it in there. That's happened before. So please don't do that. They're meant for the hex of a fastening bit. Like right in. And then when you take it off, I grab the collar, I'll get it right off. Okay. Batteries on these. Pull the trigger, take it off. Make sure they're going into one with a flashing light. See the light is flashing. Then grab the battery for the knife. Don't leave batteries up there dead because you'll be turn one time and all be dead. So make sure the batteries are being charged. This is intact. It's meant to put screws in. That's it. Not meant to drill holes. Very powerful in the fact that you can try to screw through a board, which you don't want to do. So you want to be, careful with these before your project. Again, you get frustration. Regular package chuck drills, or something called border drills, but package chuck is the size of the chuck. The chuck. Put a bit in here. Put a bit in. You have three jaws. If I were to rotate this in the counterclockwise, it closes the jaws. If I rotate this in the clockwise, it's going to open the jaws. You open it up and fit the bit. Turn counterclockwise to lock it, listen to the clicks. That bit is put in place. Trigger and circle. On top, you have a gearbox. Gearbox is meant to be two for drilling holes, one for fastening drills. Do not pull the trigger and change the gearbox. It will break. For about $180. So please don't do that. If you hear making weird noises, like noise, that's because the impact set or the stopping set means that it will not allow you to drill farther than you need to drill. For example, I'm trying to put screws in. I want to make sure I don't bury a screw into a board. I can set this to a certain pretty much stop so that it won't drill. If you're drilling a hole though, that's what you're really doing. You're turning it into a drill mode this, and then you drill a full trigger. Not that hard to use. The light will turn off on its own. Forward and reverse on the trigger. Please, I ask you with all the can and all that I can. Do not run around the room going you, or bring it in. Okay? So use the drill like it's supposed to be used. If you use them on the bench, try to lay them down on the bench. Most difficult thing to happen, you saw me, I turn around and I hit it, and it's on the floor. Okay, that's why like some of these are finally like dying out because they drop it. So if you're on a bench, just lay down. So that at least that way you're not. What did you say? And all of a sudden it's on the floor. Okay? Any questions, comments, concerns for me? Pretty easy. Let's get into go over OSHA. Then we have the quiz on Monday and you pass and start working. So next period, we'll go back down and then wrap this up.
Yo, it's still on. Yeah, because I have this. There we go. Zero to 35 minutes. All right, we gotta end this.
Okay.